Venice doesn't just sit on water, it floats on centuries of ambition, art, and salt-stained secrets. It's a city that defies logic. No cars, no roads, just canals and crumbling beauty. But beyond the gondolas and glass, there's a raw living city. So what's worth the hype, and where do you start in an iconic place that used to be an empire for 1,000 years? Venice is small, shockingly small for a place that once ruled the seas. Centuries of power, trade, and art are crammed into a maze of canals and alleys where every turn could lead to a masterpiece or a dead end. There's more here than you can squeeze into one visit, and plenty that isn't worth the detour. So how do you actually see the best of it without burning time in long queues or falling for tourist traps? We're breaking it down neighborhood by neighborhood, what's worth it, what's not, and how to make sure you leave with stories that you couldn't get anywhere else.
I'm Angel Castellanos for the tour guide, and today we're not just running down the top things to see here in Venice, we're diving deep into the neighborhoods. That way you can prioritize what's best, sidestep the crowds, and find out if Venice is worth the hype.
Let's open with the heavyweight, San Marco, where Venice showed off its power to the world. There's St. Mark's Basilica, its centerpiece, dripping with gold mosaics and guarded by 4 bronze horses stolen from Constantinople. Inside, you'll see things like the Pala d'Oro, an altarpiece so loaded with jewels it could pay off a small country's debt. Then there's the Doge's Palace, which is next door, where politics, justice, and intrigue played out. And the Bridge of Sighs is the last glimpse of daylight for condemned prisoners. This is Venice's statement piece, beautiful, intimidating, and unforgettable. St. Mark's Square used to be called the drawing room of Europe by Napoleon, and this wide, elegant square has been Venice's stage for public life for centuries. You can visit for the orchestras playing under the arcades, the pigeons that you'll pretend not to feed, and the way the space frames the Basilica, the Palace, and the Campanile in one perfect shot. It's important because it's a ceremonial heart of Venice. Every major event, from triumphs to floods, happens here. St. Mark's Basilica was built to house the stolen relics of St. Mark in the 9th century. It was the former private chapel of the Doge and is one of the most special churches in Italy, which tells a story of conquest and faith, and where the gold ceilings seem to glow from within. It's important because it's the spiritual and symbolic heart of Venice and never fails to impress.
St. Mark's Basilica isn't just a church. This is a trophy case to the greatest relic the city has, the body of St. Mark, one of the 4 gospel writers, and he's right behind me, and you see him directly in front of the main entrance. Now, this place is dripping with gold. It's built in the Byzantine style to show Venice's relationship to the East. It has so many mosaics that could easily fill 2 football fields. Once you step inside, you're just in a different world.
The Pala d'Oro is inside of St. Mark's Basilica near the tomb of St. Mark's and is so special you need a separate ticket to see it. It was commissioned in the 10th century and later enhanced with Byzantine enamels and gems. It's a rare medieval altarpiece still in its original setting.
So this is the actual golden altarpiece, and it isn't one piece of art or one work of art. It is several coming together. Jesus is right in the middle with the most precious stones surrounding him.
Looted from Constantinople during the Fourth Crusade in 1204, these ancient Greek sculptures that are nearly 2,000 years old now overlook the square from the Basilica's balcony. Napoleon stole them and shipped them to Paris in 1797.
So these are the cavalli of San Marco. They were constructed 300 years before Christ, and they were meant to be on top of the Hippodrome in Constantinople, and they were brought back to Venice in 1204, and they stood outside of St. Mark's Basilica, as a symbol of what Venice had done in the Middle East. And they're the oldest equestrian statues in the world, 300 years before Christ.
The Doge's Palace was the seat of the Venetian government for centuries, where councils decided war, trade, and justice. Go for the opulent chambers and the grim walk to the prisons. It's important as the place where Venice's fate was written.
Doge's Palace isn't a palace, it's a performance, a stage to intimidate and to show Venice was more than carnival masks and canals. This is one of the greatest rooms in all of Europe, the Great Council Room here in the Doge's Palace, and you're surrounded by 32 panels by Tintoretto, the greatest Venetian painter of the Renaissance, and the biggest oil on canvas painting in the world. And you can just imagine 2,000 aristocrats in here surrounding this room, and with the Doge sitting there in the the middle, it really just makes Versailles look like new money because this was built centuries before that.
The Bridge of Sighs was built in 1600 to connect the interrogation rooms of the palace to the prison. See it from the outside for the romance, then cross it from the inside for the reality. It matters because it's a stark reminder of justice in a maritime empire. The bell tower of St. Mark's was once a lighthouse and a watchtower, but collapsed in 1902 and was rebuilt as it was where it was. Go for the panorama without breaking a sweat because there's an elevator for a small fee. It's the tallest building on the island, so the view can't be beat.
Café Florian is one of the oldest and most famous cafes here in Venice, and it's right on St. Mark's Square. You're gonna pay a whopping 10 to 15 euros for a cup of coffee, but what you get for it is an incredible view and a full-on orchestra right behind you playing incredible music.
If you want to see heavy hitters like St. Mark's Basilica and the Doge's Palace all in one day, then don't worry, we got you. Definitely check out our Venice in a Day tour because that sorts out all the details, saves you tons of time, includes the tickets and a professional guide. Check out the link in the description below. It's time to get away from the gold, grandeur, and pomp of San Marco for Cannaregio, Venice's lived-in north side. Here you've got the Venetian Ghetto, the world's first, with centuries of history hidden behind its gates. Then there's the eccentric bookstore Acqua Alta, where high tide is definitely part of the decor. This is the neighborhood of quiet canals where laundry still hangs over the water, away from the shuffling cruise ship hordes.
I love a good bookstore, and there is this real funky bookstore here in Venice called Libreria Acqua Alta, and I want to show you inside. Come on.
Born from the necessity of repeated flooding, the owner of this bookstore put books in gondolas and bathtubs to save them from Acqua Alta tides. Visit because it's eccentric and photogenic, but also because it's a story of Venetian resilience, an emblem of how a city adapts without losing its soul. The Venetian Ghetto was established in 1516 and was the first legally segregated Jewish quarter in the world, which meant they were locked in at night and patrolled by guards. This is a really quiet area, a working class neighborhood, and much different from the rest of Venice. Especially if you walk down the fundamentas or the canal banks, that's where you're gonna find cicchetti bars that line those canal banks, and you're gonna have a great time exploring. We created the perfect route and plan to get you from A to Z. Check out our tours and online guidebook with curated information on maximizing your time and increasing your fun. Before we continue, hook me up with a like and subscribe so I don't get fired. I really love this job. Across the Grand Canal, Dorsoduro hits you with art and plenty of it. This is where Venice gets bold, where the wealthy built galleries and schools still hold world-class collections. You've got the Accademia Bridge with one of the city's best views. The Scuola di San Rocco, where Tintoretto, the Baroque master, covered every surface like he owned the place. And the Basilica of Santa Maria della Salute, a massive Baroque dome, was built as a plea for survival after the plague. The Accademia Bridge is only one of 4 bridges over the Grand Canal, and it was built in the 1930s from wood, which was a temporary solution that eventually became permanent. Visit for the sweeping views that artists and photographers chase, and don't miss the most cinematic angle of the Grand Canal. The Scuola di San Rocco was founded in the 15th century to aid the sick during plague outbreaks and later hired Tintoretto, who spent over 20 years filling its walls and ceilings.
Just around the corner from the Frari church is the Scuola di San Rocco, which I consider to be the Sistine Chapel of Venice because there are about 50 paintings from the 16th century Venetian master Tintoretto.
Built in 1631 after the plague of 1630, this massive Baroque church was an offering to the Virgin Mary for sparing the city from complete devastation. Visit for the dramatic dome and the Titian paintings inside. Don't miss Basilica Santa Maria della Salute because it's a reminder that Venice's beauty was born out of crisis. Now we cross into Rialto and San Polo, the city's financial and commercial heart for nearly 1,000 years. This is where Venice earned its fortune. You've got the Rialto Fish Market, still loud and briny with the day's catch. The Rialto Bridge, an icon that's been moving people and money since the 16th century. And the Frari Church, plain on the outside, but with masterpieces on the inside that you just can't miss. This is Venice's marketplace, of fish, of goods, and ideas.
I made it to the historic fish market here in the Rialto neighborhood of Venice, and you're probably thinking, well, Angel, I'm a tourist, why would I want to visit a fish market? Well, I'll tell you, this is where you get to rub elbows with local working class Venetians who are here every single day, and more importantly, they're the ones who know where to get the local cicchetti, the local snacks, and fresh seafood.
The Rialto Fish Market has been in operation for over 900 years. Let that sink in. Marco Polo himself probably walked these aisles. Go in the early morning to see the last authentic hustle in Venice. Fishmongers yelling and chefs haggling. It's vital because it connects you directly to the city's maritime roots. Completed in 1591, replacing a series of wooden bridges that kept collapsing, the Rialto Bridge became Venice's main artery for commerce.
There are over 400 bridges here in Venice, but only 4 cross the Grand Canal. The most famous and iconic is definitely the Rialto Bridge. Built at the canal's narrowest point, there's been a bridge here since the 11th century. What we see today is a result of a 16th century design competition. And just like Venice itself, it's bold, heavy, and still standing.
The pro tip is to visit early in the morning at sunrise. That way you have amazing views of the Grand Canal when it's empty. It's important to see, and it's one of the top things to see here in Venice because it's a symbol of the city's wealth and engineering prowess.
I'm standing outside of Santa Maria Gloriosa de Frari, which is otherwise known as the Frari Church.
The Frari Church was built by the Franciscans in the 14th century. The plain exterior is easy to miss, but the church hides masterpieces like Titian's Assumption of the Virgin and Bellini's Madonna and Child. You definitely want to visit because you can stand inches away from art that redefined painting. It's one of the top things to see in Venice because it's the perfect blend of Venetian piety and prestige. We're finally leaving the main island of Venice and heading out onto the lagoon. Murano is where glass has been blown by hand for over 700 years, a technique so valuable it was once guarded like a state secret. Burano is where houses are painted like candy and lace is made slowly, the way it's been done for centuries. Out here, the pace changes, the noise fades, and Venice breathes. Glassmakers moved to the island of Murano in 1291 to prevent fires in the city, and because their craftsmanship was so extremely valuable, it became world famous.
So nobody does tradition like Italy, and here on the island of Murano, they've been making these beautiful pieces made out of glass for about 800 years, and these are all family traditions handed down from family to family.
You want to visit a glassblowing factory to see molten glass turn into art in minutes. This craftsmanship is a living tradition Venice still exports to the world today.
Luciano's been making glass here for 70 years. He learned the craft from his father, which is very traditional, and the way they've been doing it here in Murano for 800 years.
Fishermen painted houses in vivid colors on the island of Burano to find them in the fog, and the lace making here has been a slow, precise craft since the 16th century.
This is Burano with a B, different vibe, different island, certainly charming, and we're going to learn about a different heritage craft, this time lace making. So Florence has leather making, in Murano there's a glass blowing, and here in Burano there is an ancient, beautiful tradition of lace making. And just to give you an idea of how labor intensive this is, a small little patch takes 7 ladies to make because they each work on a different stitch. Upstairs there's pieces that take years to make. I definitely recommend that you come to Burano, check out this traditional art form because it is, history in process.
You definitely want to visit for the peace, the color, and the quiet canals. Also, it's your last chance to see a tradition that is slowly fading into history.
Well, that's it for our time here in La Serenissima, the incredible floating city of Venice. I'm Angel Castellanos for the tour guide. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and smash that bell so you can find our next video. Happy travels.